When I visit entrepreneurs and walk through their workspaces, I often see highlighters. And here's the thing, highlighters, they don't work. Throw away the highlighters. This is going to be a simple lesson. We're going to review all the myths about learning, and there are a lot of them, because there are lots of self-help gurus out there, the Malcolm Gladwells of the world, who are pushing ideas that are wrong. And really, a lot of the conventional wisdom about how people learn is just wrong. So going to review what you need to know and what you need to forget in order to become a more effective learner, in order to become a better entrepreneur. What the science of learning does is give us some insights into replicable, research-backed ideas that you can use to become a better learner. Why is this important? Because if you are going to try and embrace something like learning styles, which have no evidence, you're not going to become a very effective learner. If you try and embrace an auditory learning to learn something like golf, it's just not going to work. So it's important to go step by step and explode these myths, because if you engage in these myths, you're simply not going to learn. Myth number one is the 10,000 hour rule, made famous by Malcolm Gladwell. And it's really a simple idea that if you do something for 10,000 hours, you will become a master, you will become an expert. I'm here to tell you that that's wrong. And as an entrepreneur, you kind of know this. You've spent countless hours, probably in excess of 10,000, on your taxes, but you have not gotten better. You are not an expert in taxes. What you need to do instead is to take a more focused approach to learning, one that includes targeting, one that includes acquiring with focus, with feedback, and making sure you apply your learning in new ways. This is what is going to make you an expert. So forget about simply doing something again and again. You're not going to get better, whether you're at hour 20 or at hour 10,000. Learning myth number two, that people have learning styles. Just to recap, there's this idea that people have a specific learning style, that some people are auditory learners, some people are visual learners, some people are kinesthetic learners. And this idea states that if you have this learning style, you're going to learn everything better in this style. I'm here to tell you that this idea is also wrong. How do we know this? One, it simply doesn't make sense. If you are, for instance, a visual learner, right? You learn everything visually, should you really learn soccer by watching lots of videos? No, on the face of it, you would disagree. You would say that the best way to learn soccer is actually to play soccer. There's also a lot of evidence by Hal Pashler and others that if you ask people if they have a learning style and then teach them in their preferred learning style, that they do not learn any more effectively. The two takeaways, the two things you should do instead is one, acknowledge that learning styles is just kind of a word for that people are different, and that is well accepted. But more important, there's really one form of learning, and that is that we're mainly visual learners, right? We gain a lot through our eyes, and then we can use our other sensory perceptions to learn more effectively. In essence, we should leverage the way our brain works to become a better learner. I often see entrepreneurs practicing in a blocked fashion. So if they're trying to get better at a specific Python skill, they're doing that skill again and again and again. But the evidence is very clear that block practice, doing the same thing over and over again, is not as effective as mixed up practice. So you'd be better off doing a little Python coding than a little Linux coding, maybe even throwing a little HTML in there, because that variation is going to allow you to practice more effectively. So when you're practicing, when you're learning, never do the same thing over and over again. Don't do the same thing even twice. Make sure to mix up your learning far more effective. Myth number four, the idea that there is some form of speed reading. There's no evidence for this idea. Reading is a very specific process and it cannot be sped up. And if you do speed up, you simply gain less information. There are ways to more effectively get an overview of material, But the actual way of getting letters and words together, that they make sense in a cohesive way into your head, it cannot be sped up. You can maybe go a little bit faster, but this idea that you can tear through books at lightning speed, no evidence for it. Number 5, the idea that you can multitask while learning. By now, you should know that you should not multitask in general, that it doesn't work. And this is true whether you're driving while talking on the cell phone. But in learning, this is doubly true. And even small amounts of multitasking can ruin your learning. So for instance, if you are listening to music, specifically music that has words while reading and trying to understand, evidence suggests you will not be as effective. So when it comes to learning, what you should do instead is focus. Focus at one thing at a time to ensure the most efficient type of learning. This is key both for learning and entrepreneurship more broadly. You want to focus and stay away from multitasking. Myth number 6, rereading is not an effective way to learn. This is incredibly common. I see people talking about rereading all the time. I see entrepreneurs preparing for speeches by rereading their notes. Bad idea. This is a terrible idea. Rereading is a passive way of learning. You're much better off applying your learning in some way. Once you have some basic knowledge, once you have some basic skills, you need to move away from the kiddie wheels, and rereading is a form of kiddie wheels, as quickly as possible and try and apply your learning. When I visit entrepreneurs and walk through their workspaces, I often see highlighters. And not only do I just see yellow highlighters, I see pink and green and blue. And here's the thing, highlighters, they don't work. They're a very passive way of learning. You're basically just underlining something and often go back and you really haven't gained that key idea. So throw away the highlighter and instead use more effective learning skills like talking to yourself out loud or explaining something to a friend. Far more effective. Throw away the highlighters. The final myth, and this is such an important myth to explode, is that learning depends on intelligence. This is simply not true. What learning depends on is how you learn. Are you engaging these materials in more effective ways? Are you really understanding and using techniques that we're going to talk about in this course and in some ways have already talked about, like metacognition, thinking about your thinking, engaging in active retrieval? These are far better predictors of what you are going to learn than simple IQ. If you look at famous entrepreneurs like Elon Musk, they don't have any special powers. These are not heroes who wear capes. They are like you and I. Where they are different is they've developed a set of skills around learning, around innovation, around entrepreneurship that allow them to see things a little bit differently, allow them to create new visions, allow to manage in different ways. And this is the skill that I want you to have when you leave this course.
The Founder mission is to help you create an ass-kicking business and help you learn straight from the mouths of world-class founders. Get your free printed edition of Founder Magazine featuring Sir Richard Branson. Just cover shipping and handling at founder.com/Branson.